Hello and welcome to another edition of Africa Alive. On today's programme I have a comedic giant, Basoj Taria Jr. Hello Basoj.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
Firstly, how did you get started in comedy?
Well, I started way back in school. I was in the University of Port Harcourt. And myself and the Bokoko were the early comedians from Rivers State. It was normal for theatre art students to come out and do presentations, and I was one of those picked to always anchor the variety shows. So I was discovered very early in the university as someone with some sort of wit, and so being a witty guy and also the departmental comedian and stand-up MC, I naturally fell into the act of stand-up comedy. I didn't really know what it was until someone bought a few tapes by Eddie Murphy, and I watched them, and I now realized that comedy was an art on its own, and so I started developing that. And in 1995, when I moved to Lagos and auditioned for a role in Zeb Ejiro's TV movie, Domitila, where I played the role of Tonero, the pimp to the prostitutes. I was also given a chance to anchor the second edition, I think, or the third edition of the Tema Award. And so from there onward, I started getting jobs mostly from multinationals for dinner parties and end-of-year parties, and that's how it started. And so when OPA decided to have the first Nigerian stand-up show, which was the Night of 1,000 Live, we were naturally called, the five of us, myself, Mohammed Danjuma, Oke Bakassi, and Ali Baba, were naturally called in to see how we can shape the comic industry, and that's how it all started.
Do you think a person can be a natural comedian, or do you think comedy is something you can learn?
I think that you have an edge if you're naturally funny, if you're disposed to humor. But I think every act is worth studying and learning or developing. I think that everyone is talented. All you need to do is to harness your skills. And what we have done with lots of funny people, if you go to Warri, where most of us have spent a few years, or some of us, most comedians are from Warri, they will tell you that half the city are comedians. In fact, my friend's mother will tell you she wrote all his jokes. But the truth is, it goes beyond just having natural propensity for humor. It's deeper than that. When you start to work as a professional, you're required to at least harness certain skills, your ability to identify humorous points, your ability to see funny situations, your ability to read the crowd, hold your own, and know what jokes to tell and how to tell them, and know when to give a punchline. So that's it.
How do you come up with your jokes?
I just write them. I look for them. They're almost everywhere. When I came into London a few days ago, I was driving with a friend. I had forgotten that the steering in this part of the world is on the right side, so I saw a fellow who was sleeping on the left side. I said, "Oh, this guy is going to hit us. Why is the driver sleeping?" And my friend said, "Oh, this is not Nigeria, you fool. Come on, the steering is on the right side." I said, "Okay." So I immediately thought of a joke. And the joke was that, the joke that came after that was, because he said, then I saw a beautiful car and I said, if I buy this car and I ship it to Nigeria, I would have to convert it to left-hand drive. So he said, yes, you have to do that. I said, if I buy a bike too, will I have to convert it? You know, so you just look for them, and then you find a way to tell them. That's a difficult point. And then even when you write them, being on stage is a different ball game, because it's like music, it's like football. You have to know when to give the pass. So you have to know and feel the pulse of the audience to know when you drop the punchline and how you drop the punchline. Sometimes it could be overstated, and sometimes it could be just very mildly and stated at the people. So that's it.
So by overstated, give us an example of the kind of joke that was?
What I mean overstated, sometimes you could make a joke sound loud, and you could make a joke sound like it's not a joke, it's just an aside. Do you understand what I mean? It's like satire. Sometimes you impress that you are deliberately taking a lash at something, and sometimes you act like you don't even realize what you're saying. That's what I mean. Where would I find a joke to express this? Maybe in the course of the interview, I'll tell you a joke and explain what I mean by overstating a joke.
Okay. And in your style of comedy, do you have religious jokes mainly? Do you have satire? Do you have political commentary? What kind of jokes do you normally crack?
You crack all types of jokes. Most comedians will crack all types of jokes. It depends on the situation and it depends on the event. I crack gospel jokes. Well, I'm a God-fearing man, and so when I see that the situation, it depends on how serious the event is and how serious the audience. If it's a very serious audience, I leave out religion. Take, for example, it's a state function in Nigeria. You don't want to offend the Muslims and you don't want to offend the Christians. So this is all what it takes to be a good comedian. But mostly what I do these days is that I comment on issues. I try to discuss issues and find and hope that in the course of it, as I achieve laughter as a comedian, which is my primary objective, that I also contribute relevantly to art by educating people or calling their attention to very serious issues in very trivial manners.
How do you deal with a bad audience though? If you say something offensive, how do you redeem yourself?
I would know immediately and I would tell them that that wasn't supposed to be, that joke was written like 10 seconds ago and I was just trying to see if they'll find it funny. And that sometimes would meet laughter or forgiveness, and then you move on to the next joke. Something like that. You would always find something. Most times when you're in trouble, that's where your skill or spontaneity comes in. You have to be spontaneous. It's